punk. Punk's a good, there's a punk. There's a punk. There's a punk.
Stuart, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate, and it's great to be back.
Oh,
Here we are.
amazing. It's been another 4-week delay, but we're getting there.
Well, we're keeping the delays down because the last delay was 2 months. So getting
Well,
back,
was it? Oh,
yeah.
that's pretty good going then. So yeah, it's been quite an eventful 4 weeks, and a couple of things that I want to just touch on. Over the next few episodes, we're looking at, sort of expanding things that might not necessarily be punk rock, but are punk rock.
Right, interesting.
On Saturday, I created a bit of a stink by joining a Facebook group from our Facebook. Obviously, we're There's Not Punk, and I joined We Raved in the 90s. And they came back to me, and it's the best requested post we've had for likes and stuff like that. And I started, funnily enough, I'm 5 minutes in, 3 hours later, I'm still in this conversation with loads of people I don't know that are talking about rave culture. And I'm trying to just say, I got into this conversation about Vivienne Westwood and how Vivienne Westwood was as important for, punk as she was for other cultures. And God, some people are so, protect my scene, don't let any punk rockers in here. I was like, okay, right. Anyway, that happened Saturday. Couple of mentions I have to give, and it ties in with the rave scene because it's drum and bass. Couple of deaths in the last 4 weeks. The mighty Clem Burke.
Oh, yeah. Very sad.
Who was one of the, most fashionable drummers that came out of punk rock. He was also in the Ramones for 2 minutes as Elvis Ramone, for those of you that don't know. And Dave Allen, not the short-fingered Irish comedian.
Or the instrumental lead figure in the band Gong.
No,
Yeah.
Dave Allen, the bass player of the Gang of Four.
Very sad.
Yeah, very sad to lose two great people from the scene that we love and embrace. And one final shout out, one of the bands that we've supported since day one, Benefits, headline the Lexington this Friday. It's sold out, so if you missed it, you've lost out.
And is the new album out?
New album came out last week, yeah.
Right,
It's
okay.
really good, really good.
A big shout out to
Pushing
Kingsley
boundaries in
and
music.
Benefits. So we are going to introduce our very special guest very shortly. But before we do that, I've got to do what they used to call on Tiz was telly-selly time, and just do a shout out to our supporter, and I was going to say sponsor, but it's a bit more than that, which is Home. And for those that don't know, that's the House of Music and Entertainment, or Home for short, which is a workspace in Spitalfields run by and for independent music and entertainment industries. If you need a desk, you want to do a meeting, you've got an event or a podcast like us, make Home your home, which is a very quirky little byline there. Well done, the copywriting team, for putting that together. If you want to find them online, they're at homeuk.net. You could do a lot worse than work from here. So thank you to Andy, Sarah, and everybody at home. So without further ado, as we stumble headfirst,
Where are we? Where are we in the alphabet?
We're doing what we're doing for the benefit of our guest and for perhaps some listeners who are joining us for the first time.
Yeah,
we're working our way through the A to Z of punk, which feels a little bit like a longer mission than Frodo embarked on when he had to throw that ring into the fires of Mordor. And here we are, just outside the prancing pony at the letter R.
Oh, we're at R.
Yeah.
Right, because how did Bill from Blackout become P?
No, he was Q.
Oh, he was Queens
because he was from New York.
That's right.
So now we've crowbarred our guest into the letter R, because I think arguably made one of the most interesting and sort of game-changing record to a certain extent from the anarcho-punk scene when Cravats were releasing lots of different singles by lots of different bands who were sort of coalescing around the scene. And this record came out, which really changed things for me because it wasn't just a stand-up mohawk wearing 1, 2, 3, 4 floor to the metal punk band. It gave you something else to think about. And we'll come back to that record shortly. But
is that the R?
It'll be the R, and you're going to hear
the R.
You're going to hear my R,
which is also a book.
It's also a book, yeah.
It's also a book written by our guest.
So we're very pleased and proud to introduce the Shend onto the podcast from the Cravats, who, of course, released the brilliant record Rub Me Out back in the very early 80s. And, of course, Shend also released a book of the same name. So welcome to our humble podcast, The Shend.
Well, hello. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So let's get a bit of background on your musical journey.
No.
Coming from Redditch, Middle England, Middle England, right? Suppose it's a bit similar to coming from Ayr in Scotland. You're in the middle of nowhere and you want to get out, right? And all you can do is arts or music, and that's the only way you're going to get out. And, my introduction to music was seeing The Clash in 77. What was yours?
You'll think I'm joking, but it was Black Sabbath in 1971. Right. I'm actually that old. And the good thing with Redditch is it's a stone's throw from Birmingham. So we had Birmingham Town Hall, the Hippodrome, and all those places. So during the sort of early 70s, I went and saw loads of bands that most of which you couldn't mention on a program like this. I'm
sure we can get away with it. We've had some guests on, that have cited certain acts that I'm sure have influenced you, and one of them that always comes up is the sensational Alex Harvey band. Right, yeah. And we must have mentioned them about at least a dozen times as of some of our guests.
Easily one of my favourite ever bands, and still are.
Right.
I saw them, I think, in all 8 times, and it was the fact it was such a show. It wasn't like just looked like people who got off the bus and plugged the guitars in. It was like, we're going to entertain you. And that was certainly an influence on the Cravats, because we didn't just want to stand there in shorts and play thrash music. So,
I mean, Alex Harvey and Zal Clemenson is a hero of mine, and that whole theatrical side of what they brought to music. It is about, I teach kids music today, and it's like, don't just look like the guy off the street.
No.
Don't look as though you're the guy that works in a bank and has just come on. And make sure you make an event of it. Your production on stage and how you look is as important as the songs and the performance.
Well, exactly. And I mean, you should change your clothes before you go on stage. So you should put on something that is your stage wear.
Yeah.
And, it can be a little tiny thing. But the fact that you've made an effort and you don't look like the bloke who just got off the bus to come and watch the band, you actually look like the band.
And I was impressed at the time when the Cravats formed, being a little punk rocker in Northamptonshire, and you guys wore suits and had a saxophone, and it was a completely different look, but yet similar, but continue to communicate the sort of sentiment and that. I mean, you've always had a sort of the word Dadaist attached to you. Well, not always, but in some of the things I've read, which I suppose is sort of a fair thing to say, given the sort of artistic approach of the band to things, not just the music.
I mean,
what was your artistic approach to forming the Cravats? Was it you saw a band and said, "I want to be in a band," or
Well, it was going to see bands and then going to see the Stranglers at Barbarella's in 76 or 7. And I went with my cohort, Rob Dalloway, and we'd never seen anything like it. I just thought, this is stupendous. And it was so exciting, and literally came back and the next morning said, let's form a band. We didn't play anything or anything, but that was the total impetus to do it. And
what size of venue was Barbarella's in Birmingham?
It was a weird nightclub. I think it was on Broad Street.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and I just saw everybody there. So XTC, the Jam, the Clash, Buzzcocks, XTC, just tons of bands.
Because I think every sort of that was the beauty of back in the mid-70s. Every sort of regional town and city had their club that would specialise in that type of music, from Eric's in Liverpool to Night Moves in Glasgow to Barbarella's.
The Roadmender in
The Roadmender.
The Roadmender,
yeah.
JB's in Dudley was another.
Yeah.
PJ's in Dudley. Or what was it? What was it in Dudley?
JB's.
Right, JB's. Yeah.
So you get the band together. I mean, and then we're not going to spend too much time in the nostalgia foothills of history. However, it's really interesting, and relevant. So you get the band together, and then I think the first release, if I remember this correctly, and I have made some notes to be fair, but was with Small Wonder.
Well, it was we formed the band, but and then learned some sort of songs. We had about 4 or 5 songs, but we were in Redditch, and it's a new town, and so there was no Vivian Westwood shops or anything. You just walk around, and people stared at you thinking you were a nutter. So, but you read the music press and you listened to Peel and stuff, so you knew what was happening. But we got our own sort of diluted version of it. So everything that we tried to do was like, we thought we were doing it sort of exactly like everybody else, but we weren't, thankfully. And but we borrowed £400 off my mum to make our first record, which was Gordon. And had no idea what we were doing at all, and recorded it in Outlaw Studios in Brum, which I think is still going. And what do you do with it? We got a record, but knew nothing about how to sell it. So we sent them,
let alone distribute it.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
We sent a few copies out. We sent one to Rough Trade, who totally ignored it. We sent it to a few other people, and we sent one to Small Wonder. And he said, "This is great. How many have you got?" And we said, "Well, about 700." And he said, "Well, give us those, and I'll sell them." So he did, and John Peel, sort of at the same time, he played the single, which I'd sent him, and just said, "This is great," and gave us a session straight away. So
you did a few sessions, didn't you? Wasn't there sort of 3 or 4 sessions?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah,
we did 4 as the Cravats, and 1 as the Very Things, and 1 as DCL Locomotive.
And was it on the strength of that Small Wonder then put out the In Toy Town album? I think that was in 1980.
Yeah. I mean, he just loved it. He certain people sort of got us, and most people didn't get us at all. But the people who got us were like Peel and Pete Stennett at Small Wonder, just loved it, and were passionate about it. And the people who bought it were passionate about it. So, I mean, without Pete Stennett, we would have lasted about 10 weeks and gone. So
was it Pete Stennett and the Small Wonder connection that got you involved with Penny Rimbard and Crass? Because of course they'd put out the first Crass stuff.
Yeah. Well, and to us, Crass were this sort of like scary bunch of anarchists who were a bit frightening. But Penny Rimbaud was. He always loved jazz music as well, and he saw something in the probably because of the saxophone and the fact that we played odd rhythms and stuff because we didn't know what we were doing, and so I think he liked the jazziness of it and brought us into the studio to make Rub Me Out.
Well, I mean, he also wasn't he involved in the first album? Did he produce the first album? Because it came out on Corpus Christi, didn't it? Which was the side spin of Crass Records.
Well, No, the first album was
The
Cravats.
second album, sorry.
Oh, the second album. He produced some of it, yes. And
Right.
various other people did as well, but yeah, it's. But he's stayed a friend ever since. I mean, love him to death. He's just well, he changed the musical world quite a lot, really.
For so many people.
Yeah, him and John Loder, I would.
Yeah, John Loder, who's
and Peel's producer.
Yeah.
John
Waters.
John Waters. So
John Waters,
John's been on here.
Yeah, there
the
are
three Johns.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
that?
Do you remember that?
Well, and they were all lovely people. I mean, over all the years I've been doing it, that's one of the key things is if you talk to them and you think you're a nice person, then that sort of helps. The whole thing's tons better. Yeah, John Walters was brilliant. John Loder was fantastic. We used to stay on his floor whenever we were recording, and they just do so much for you and look after you. And we were sort of like from a little new town. Oh God, what are we doing? But so yeah, I mean, it was a brilliant time because we just thought we're going to be on top of the pops next week. Never quite happened, but
well, you were on the
tube.
Tube,
yes. That was as a very thing. So, but basically, we had Rob and I had loved lots of different sorts of music, and rather than just the one band play all those sorts of music, we thought, well, let's just have a different band. So mostly the same people were in them, but the very things was psychedelic woo type one.
I remember seeing it on the Tube, and it resonated with what was going on at the time with other bands like the Cramps and the Guns.
Yeah,
and there was a garage sort of Pebbles and Nuggets garage, bands, all that sort of sound, and it blew my mind when I saw the video, and I was just like, "This is mental."
Yeah, the Bushes Scream is still the most popular thing we've ever done. Especially, every year Halloween comes around. What do you play?
Yeah. That's your Merry Christmas, everybody, for Slade on Halloween.
Yeah, I wish it.
I wish it paid as much in a PRS.
Well, exactly. Yes. Yeah. No noddy holders in our band. Tragic.
I was just going to say there was another little crossover, and I'm sorry to harp on about the Crass thing, but I will.
Right.
Because a couple of didn't one of the members of the band join the Poison Girls?
Yes. Dave Bennett was our drummer initially, and he joined Poison Girls. What was he called? Poison Orange or something. I can't remember. But and played with them for a long time.
They were another band who kind of went off the punk road, off piste with the punk thing, and on their own sort of music, and they were a bit more sort of bordello and cabaret, I'd say.
Definitely. I mean, Vice Versa was a huge influence to lots of people. I asked her to come and play a gig with us in Brighton pretty soon before she passed away, and she agreed and just said, "Oh God, who want to still see me?" And the place was completely sold out with people, who absolutely loved the Poison Girls. Yeah. So it was a lovely event.
Yeah, I listened to that Chappaquiddick Bridge album quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good record. So, so then after those first few albums, was there a bit of a hiatus? I mean, what happened next after that kind of? I guess we would be in the mid '80s by this point.
Acid House.
Yeah.
Acid House happened, sure.
Yes.
We read the 80s and 90s on the website.
Well, the very things went off, and we toured Europe 3-4 times and had a good time. But then, it was time to go in for tea. So we went in for tea for about 15 years.
But then I guess, was it in the early 2000s, there was the CD compilation of all the singles that came out? Is that the...
but it was John Esplin from excuse me, from Overground, and he just said, "Well, I'd like to re-release stuff," and we said, "Oh God, it's all over the place, and we don't know who owns it." And he said, "Oh, look, leave it to me," and he just sorted it all out.
And there was a new track as well, wasn't there? I think it's called Seance which was Paul Hartnell from Orbital. Yeah.
But he's another good friend, and he's down in Brighton. So he always loved the Cravats, and he said, "Well, look, I'll just take the old tracks off the vinyl, off the first album, and make a new track." And he made Seance, and Rob Dalloway wrote a new song to go over it, and very good. Hopefully, we're re-releasing that because he came out and he did great. They got loads of really good reviews in DJ Mag and things like that, which was pretty good for us.
Music magazine.
Yeah, Vibe and things like that. But I've got somebody.
Orbital are definitely, they've got a new album coming out later this year.
Oh God, yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, they're still retaining their popularity.
And managed by a friend of ours.
Yeah. They also, the last post I put on Instagram was Orbital and Tilda Swinton.
Right. Okay, there's a mix.
Yeah, there's a mix.
That was quite an amazing piece of film.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've known Paul for a long time. And there again, lovely bloke, and you can go around to his garden and sit there and talk about anything. So.
Now, one of the other things I was going to ask was that every year Ewan and I make pilgrimage to Blackpool to the Rebellion Festival. We've been going for quite some time, and it's our thing that we do. And I understand that I think around 2009, you put together. Tell us about the Rebellion. You guys coming together to do Rebellion. What happened there?
Well, it was they asked us if we'd like to play, and I sort of said, "Well, we haven't really got a band anymore." And I talked to Rob, but he didn't really want to do it. So I got Svor Narn, Mr. Saxophone, and some other people. And we went and played at Rebellion. It was fantastic. So,
would you do it again? Is there any more?
Yeah, we did. We did it 4 times, I think.
Awesome.
We haven't been invited though for years now. So.
We'll have to have a word.
Yeah, we'll have to have a word.
Yeah,
I thought you were booked to play in 2008, and it never happened.
Yeah, but that's when I talked to Rob, and he didn't want to do it.
And he didn't want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because I was the bass player originally,
right?
So, I needed all the bass lines, so it wasn't forthcoming. So, the next year, I thought, "Look, I'll just become the front man because I'm grad."
Yeah.
So, that's what I did.
And I think we saw you guys supporting Steve Ignorant's Crass gig at the Shepherd's Bush Empire in.
We did.
Yeah.
2007, was it? 2007?
With Flop.
Yeah.
Some of those bands. There was 2 nights at Shepherd's Bush Empire. Yeah, we were at that.
Yeah.
Oh, right. It was astonishing. I mean, just walked out, saw this massive crowd.
Yeah.
And it was like, great. It went down very well. So.
And that's why I sort of started this whole introduction off by mentioning, Rub Me Out and the single on Crass Records, because I reckon it's a really seminal record and interesting, even not that far into the past, playing with Steve at that Shepherd's Bush thing, and a big audience for it, because I know that Derek at One Little Independent has reissued all those Crass singles, including the Out record. And did Penny remaster it, or is it just?
It's kind of remastered, and I mean that was the first record where we sort of left the studio and left it to Penny to mix it and put it all together. So he got Eve Libertine in to sing on the B-side. He put loads of bits of weird classical music in it. And made it what it is. So, yeah, we wrote it, but he certainly was the fifth cravat. Or sixth.
Right. Yeah, because that B-side, When Will We Fall, I think
Yeah.
it's called, with You Get the Eaves. It's a great record. For anybody who hasn't heard this record, by the way, which we've talked most of this podcast about, go out and bloody listen to it. It's
but in the mid-80s, when you took the sort of hiatus, you moved into acting.
Yeah.
How did that come around from a lad from Redditch on EastEnders?
Do you remember a band called the English Subtitles?
Yes, I do.
Who were also on Small Wonder.
Right.
Well, Gordon, who was the main man in them, excuse me, he found out you could get an equity card this is when equity cards were really important, by going into the office and saying, "Oh, I've been offered a job in There Ain't Nothing Like a Team in the West End, but I can't do it because I haven't got an equity card. But this is a photo of me on a record." And they just go, "Here you go," and just gave him a card.
Because you'd had records out and you were in the creative industry.
Yeah, well, exactly.
He was going to be on.
Yeah, I am a singer, and
I've been on Top of the Pops. They don't need to know you weren't.
So I did the same. And like 4 days later, they sent me a record to go. And loads of people had to go to New Zealand and become magician's assistants 5 years in order to try and get a card. So and then I did some extra work, which was all right. And then I got the Paradise Club with Dirty Den and loads of other people, and I had proper lines and everything, and fight scenes and stuff like that. So that got me my agent, and then I did that for 20 years. And
you've done commercials as well. Are you the guy in the Co-op Funeral ad?
Yes.
Brilliant. So brilliant. We always wanted to get Dad the funeral he would have wanted.
Yeah.
And it's you.
That's my wife mourning me in the advert as well.
Your real wife?
My wife.
Wow.
So,
that's weird though, isn't it?
Yeah, just totally weird.
Yeah.
Well, she used to mourn me while I stood on the other side of the road waving at her, so but the thing with that, which has now been on for 4 years, right, which pays the mortgage.
Yep.
And the coffin was really tiny, and there's no way I would have fitted in that. So I said to the director, "Well, coffin's a bit small for me," and he went, "It was a really bad road accident, and they just shoveled in the bits that were left." So I thought, fair enough, yeah.
It was great because the hearse is like a motorbike, isn't it? In that,
yeah.
So funny. Right, okay. Look, I'm conscious that we're sitting here. I could talk to you for hours, to be quite honest with you. But then we move forward a little bit, and we get into the next albums. I think Dustbin of Sound comes along next, doesn't it? Great single, by the way, with Better House. Love that. But I was really keen to sort of. I don't want to skip the album because I really like the Dustbin of Sound album, but I'm conscious of our time. But Hurrah Land, obviously, which came out in 2020. For us, I mean, we talked about this when we were putting our notes together before the interview. Is the best sounding Cravats record? I mean, the sound is brilliant.
Well, it wasn't 400 quid for your mum.
No.
Yeah.
Sadly not, but it's probably the record I'm proudest of because everything worked. All the songs were right, the music was right, production was right, everything worked, and the sleeve was great. I was just really pleased with it. But
I remember when it came out, I think I wrote to you as a fan. And I ordered everything. I ordered a T-shirt and the album and everything. And you sent me badges. Thank you. And it's brilliant. And of course, on the track, Now the Magic Has Gone, it features guest vocals from Jello Biafra.
Yeah.
Did he phone them in, or did he send? How did that work?
He went to a studio in America and recorded. I just sent him a rough version of it, and he's really good friends with Viscount Biscuits, who was our guitarist, and so he asked him if he'd do it, and he went, "Yeah, sure, great." And so he just sent this tape with him doing his bits on it. We played it in the studio over the track, and he just fitted perfectly. You know, he didn't have to do anything.
Amazing.
That was it.
The wonders of modern technology, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think also the wonders of the talent of Jello Biafra, because he seems to be able to do these sort of collaborations with other bands so well. I mean, he's done albums with DOA and No Means No and all these different.
I did wear my Dead Kennedy sweatshirt.
You did, well done, yeah.
Right, yeah.
We don't just throw this together.
I mean, this doesn't. It's not put together on a lunch hour. This, you know, there was a lot of thought went into what I was going to wear on our video.
Yeah. So, but a great record. I mean, and there were some dates. I seem to remember when that album came out, you played a gig somewhere in London, and I remember going, "I'm going to go to that," and for whatever reason, I didn't go. What's happening with live dates? When are we going to be able to see you?
Well, yeah, it was, you know, the year of unpleasantness when the plague hit us. And so, of course, we released Hurrah Land on Friday the 13th March. And it turned out to be our best-selling LP because everybody was at home. There was nothing else to do.
Looking for something new to listen to.
Yeah. But we before all the horribleness happened, we'd sorted out 21 dates, which for us, because we never played live much because it's none of us particularly, you know, we enjoyed the gigs, but bouncing around in Ford Transits for 6 hours up the motorways, you know. So we got all these dates, and of course they all had to be cancelled. Yeah. So because the world stopped, so. That was sort of, we all just thought, you know, what do we do? And the only things that sort of came up since then, the offers of bouncing around for 6 hours in the back of Ford Transit. So, yeah, after 45 years, I sort of thought, I don't want to do that anymore. So, and yeah, probably if Rebellion had asked us or something, we would have gone yay, but they didn't.
Get your booking page out, Darren. The Cravats are looking for it. Yeah,
I think you should be an addition to the 2025 bill.
Yes,
and we might with young Darren.
Secret special guests.
Yeah, it's all too late for this year, but and also we did Anzalung. I don't know if you've heard any of that.
Yep.
But
carry on. Sorry.
No, it's all right. The Anzalung stuff was a nice departure for me and Joe 91. So
well, there was a number of departures, wasn't there, as well?
Yeah.
You also got some other projects, and I mean, we're going to have to do another podcast with you to talk about Grimetime and all these other that
the baby men.
But I saved all my money and now I'm Buddy Rich.
Yeah,
that's a great name for an EP. You know,
if you don't have a great name for your songs and a great name for your band, you're struggling.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
have piping down your trousers and think of good names.
Yeah. You've always come up with great names. So what's next? What's next for you? What are you working on now?
Well, we got quite a lot of re-releases coming out through Fode over in Dublin, and which there's all the Small Wonder stuff on a double album. There's loads of stuff which is all in the pipeline on a different tack. I mean, all the Small Wonder stuff, all our Small Wonder stuff was sold to Cherry Red,
right,
a couple of years ago, and phoned our lot in Ireland, got in touch with them and said, could we license all the tracks for this LP? And they went, and for a pretty nominal fee, to be honest. So there again, some people are nice.
Yeah, Cherry Red have picked up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, they're all right.
Oh, yeah.
They did that really great compilation. Do you remember Pillows and Prayers?
Yes, they did. Yeah, that was back in the day.
I know, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome.
It had a felt track on it.
It did have a felt track on it, and I seem to remember Everything But the Girl.
I think they were, yeah.
Anyway, enough about that.
Digress.
And didn't the Dead Kennedys release some stuff on? Yeah. See, nice. You see that segue back there? Back on the Opera. But look, we are getting in low on time, so I just wanted to say thanks again for coming onto the podcast. We didn't even get to talk about Stuart Lee. We didn't get to talk about the Nightingales. We didn't get to talk about the book.
Redditch,
Turvey. There's just so much. We've got to have you back on again because you are a gold mine of interesting stories and brilliant record titles. So
I should wait for the reactions from your listeners first before
we'll give you some reaction and we'll post it up on social media later this week.
and we'll send you a link. But we are going to play out now with the aforementioned "Rub Me Out" by the Cravats. Thank you to Shend, and listeners, we'll see you next time when we move on to the letter S. So this is "Rub Me Out" by the Cravats.
Lord is the